Hey guys, we're here with Sheldon Dingwall today. Thanks for joining us, Sheldon. And we're just going to talk to Sheldon about his journey through music and the bass guitar and how it all started, really. So yeah, take it away, Sheldon.
Cool. Well, thank you. Um, I was born at a very young age and started taking piano lessons when I was 4 or 5. Um, and that was significant for me because as a little kid, I remember running around the piano bench, playing the treble strings and going, yeah, and then run around to the bass strings and I'd hit these low notes and just let them sustain. And then I hit the sustain pedal and just, I love the rolling harmonics. I never
Yeah,
forgot it. Fast forward to when I was starting to get people asking for 5-string basses with a good B. And that's the first memory I had was, well, I know what a good B sounds like.
yeah.
You just go to the piano and listen to that. And so that is what took us down a different path. And so we started experimenting with scale lengths. And we came up with 37 because that is just where everything just fell into place and had the right amount of lows, mids, and highs. Um,
So
and
how did you effectively lengthen the bass?
my shop was in the basement of a music store at that time, and it was an old school pro music shop where they had a box about this big with single strings, and there was one 130B in there, no package.
Wow.
I still don't know what brand it was, and it was long enough. It had enough winding that I could take. I took a Fender and I put it where the G string normally is. And so then I had the entire headstock where I could slide
Yeah, yeah.
a temporary nut, slide, tune, and compare it to the E string.
Amazing.
And it didn't make an even change. It was like at 35, you could hear a difference, but it didn't really knock me out. 36, you could hear more of a difference, but it still wasn't quite um, what I was looking for. At 36 and a half, it's like, okay, it's starting to get there. And then at 37, just that half-inch difference between 36 and a half and 37 made all the
Oh
difference.
wow.
And and so then it was like, get out the tape and measure it. And it's like, oh, okay, 37 inch. Who's going to want to play that? Nobody. And so I thought essentially we were dead.
So what
And
sort of year was that? When did that happen?
that would have been 90, probably early 92. Because shortly, like within about 3 months, I opened up a Guitar Player magazine and saw Novak's Fan Fret. And I was like, oh,
That's how we're going to do it.
only the B string needs to be long. The rest of them can be shorter.
Yeah.
And then the bass will be more playable, but we can still get the B string to be the length that it needs to be. And and so at that time we weren't building basses. I was building guitars, and I remember I did 54 hours straight because I was trying to get ready to go down to a luthier's convention,
Yeah.
and I had 3 guitars that I needed to ship before I went, and the deadline was looming, and it's like, okay, I'll work an all-nighter, and then I'll sleep. But I wasn't done, so okay, I'll work the rest of the day. So it
Oh
was
man.
24 hours. All right, still not done. All right, I'll work one more all-nighter. Still wasn't done. Worked another day shift. Still wasn't done.
Plenty of coffee.
Yeah. What I learned from that was grazing, so regular eating, and
Yeah.
that kept my energy up. Just like a long distance
Yeah,
runner,
yeah.
you just always have to have some
Yeah,
food
yeah.
coming in. Worked one more night and got everything boxed up and shipped off. My wife at the time picked me up and she drove the first leg on our way down to Sioux City, I think, or no, Vermilion, South Dakota,
Okay.
which was an interesting college town, middle of sort of the heartland of America. And they had one of 9, I think, Stradivarius guitars.
Wow.
Stradivarius
Amazing.
actually, he didn't just make violins.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he made guitars. Not many, but he did. So that was really interesting in itself. But that's where I met Ralph Novak. And there was a guy who had a bass a couple of tables over from me, and he had a low A done like you do on an upright bass with an extended fingerboard.
Okay.
And every time I heard that A, I was like, oh yeah, there's that low tone that I want to get from a bass if I was ever to build one. So I went over and introduced myself to Ralph Novak, and we just kind of hit it off. And I told him I'm not that interested in using the multi-scale fan frets for guitar, but I'd love to try them on bass. And we talked a little bit longer, and finally he just said, well, listen, you do the basses, I'll do the guitars.
Wow, amazing.
And so we had a long relationship after that, and we're still friends to this day.
Yeah, amazing. I remember the first time I saw a Novak guitar was on a front cover of a John Mayer album.
Exactly.
I was like, wow, that's different. What is that? So that was my first experience of a multi-scale.
Yeah, and Ralph, like John used to, when he was 16, used to come by Ralph's shop and hang out. And
Wicked.
so he was just like this, he's just little John at that time,
cool.
just a local kid.
Yeah. So how long was it before you made your first bass?
So that would have been, I guess that would have been 93, not 92. So 93, I met Ralph in about June, I'd say. And I came home and I was inspired to start tooling right away. And the very first design was headless, because Kubicki was a huge influence. And at that point, I'd only seen one Kubicki. It was a red one, and the store wouldn't let me touch it, and so I was always like upset with the store.
Yeah.
A kid from Saskatoon actually bought it, and so I actually did get a chance to work on it, and I took the whole thing apart, took the bridge apart, moved the nut because it was in the wrong spot, and then that bass disappeared for a couple of decades, and then I got a call one day saying, hey, you still want that bass?
Really?
I said, yeah, absolutely. And it was in Toronto. And so a friend of ours in Toronto went and bought it for me and took it over to F-Bass, and F-Bass shipped it to us.
Wicked.
And then we paid that guy back. And
so you've still got it?
it's in my office.
Oh, amazing.
Anyhow,
The actual one.
The actual one.
That's crazy. Yeah. Amazing. We digress.
We digress. And so 93 June, met Ralph, went back to Saskatoon, and I started designing and tooling the bass over the next 6 months. And I had the prototype, put strings on the prototype. Again, another all-night session. I did a lot of those when I was younger and trying to build a business. And it was like 7:30 in the morning on January 13th. Strung it up, and I was like, man, this thing sounds great. And it set up right, and it intonated properly. The body shape came from a Yamaha BB that a friend of mine had bought a used one, and he brought it to me. He said, can you do anything to knock the ugly out of this? And not that BBs are ugly, but he just wanted it to be more sensuous.
Yeah.
And so I put some cuts in it that were kind of inspired by a Zeta bass. And I liked the look of it. So I traced it and just rolled up the paper and stuck it on a shelf. And so when it came time to design a bass, I pulled that out, and that became the first booty shape. Amazing. Supposed to be headless. The headless hardware shows up, and I hated it. It was just terrible. So I went, okay, it was going to be headless neck through. And so I thought, change of plans. And so I started reading every bass player review of every bass. And I started to notice there was a trend away from neck throughs at that time towards bolt-ons. So I thought, well, let's go with bolt-ons. And so the first bass, I tooled everything as I built the first one. And I found out that as I was getting towards the end and I needed strings, I found out there were no strings. And so I thought, 6 months of work down the drain. Because I called D'Addario, and they're like, yeah, no, we don't make anything like that. Called up Markley. Yeah, 37? No way, man.
Wow.
I forget who else I called. GHS, they said no. But it was about 7 companies turned me down, and then as a gigging musician, I was playing Command strings.
Okay.
Command owned Ovation, and so they built Ovations and they built helicopter parts. That was their business.
Wow.
And when I was gigging, they were the strings that I was using. They were the only strings that survived. I guess I must have played pretty hard, but the commands were like night and day better than anything else I played. And so I thought, well, why don't I give them a call? And the guy who picked up the phone was a bass player. And when I told him what we were trying to do, he was like, oh, okay. Well, we don't do anything like that, but just hang on. And he went and talked to the string production manager, who was a bass player. And later he told me what interested him was the fact that, I mean, string manufacturing, I've never done it, but it's basically a lathe that spins a core, and then you wind wire on top of it. And so it's pretty easy to get somebody else's string and take it apart and go, oh, I see what they did. They used this core with this wrap wire and that wrap wire. And so he said, there are no secrets. We all know what the competition is doing. And everybody's trying to get a good B, but this is the only system he's seen that is going to free them up to create a better B string.
Amazing.
And so they did all the R&D. Sent us free prototypes, like dozens and dozens of sets for us to try out. So it was fortunate. If it would have been a guitar player that picked up the phone, he would have went, yeah, whatever, buddy.
No, see you later.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So were you experimenting around with gauges at the time, or was it just the scale length? Just getting it right scale length wise?
So I wanted to stick with 34 in the G because I wanted the bass to feel as normal as possible. I didn't want to screw up the ergonomics. All I wanted to do was fix the B string.
Yeah.
I had no idea that it was going to make the E string better and the A string better.
Yeah.
It was just solely focused on the B. And so that became the standard for us, 34 to 37. I guess one of the advantages of us sort of being alone in the multi-scale market and multi-scale bass market for so long is that people got used to that. And so now it's not a standard, but we're not the only ones doing that anymore.
Yeah.
So it's become a bit of a standard.
Yeah, definitely. I'd agree, 100%.
And that's cool because now there are other people that make multi-scale strings that fit our basses, and they also fit anybody else who's done the 34 to 37 standard.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's come a long way.
Yeah. It was lonely there for a long time, being the only ones.
Yeah, 100%.
A little bit of interesting thing. So Lee Sklar was our first big endorser.
So when did that come about?
I met him at our first trade show in '94.
Oh wow, that long ago.
Yeah, and there's something that I've learned over the years, and this really applies to musicians, and that is, as you meet musicians at different levels, and I first learned this with Sklar because he'd introduced me to other like A-list studio musicians. And I'm like, Lee, these guys are all so cool. Why is that? And he goes, well, because if you're hard to work with, you're not going to get called back. Doesn't matter how many chops you have.
Yeah.
Creative environments need a level of peace that requires somebody with some social skills.
I guess respect as well for the
Respect
other people.
is 100%. Yeah. And so long story short, I started to notice that, and it's the same thing in life as well. Like, work on your technical chops, but also work on your social skills. And so when Lee and I met, we just kind of bumped into each other. And he gets asked like all the time, hey, can you come try my thing? Can you try this? Can you try that? And he normally refuses. But on that particular day, whatever it was, he was just like, this doesn't seem like such a bad guy. Sure, I'll humor him.
Wow.
And so he came and tried the bass, and he was like, yeah, I really like it. Yeah, why don't you send me one? And so we did about a year later. If it was me and I got a new bass, I'd probably want a woodshed with it, especially a multi-scale. But he took it and recorded a session the next day. And
you're joking? Really? Do you know what it was? Do you know what the session was?
I'm going to have to look it up. It was Dennis Wilson. No, sorry, not Dennis. Brian Wilson. So the
Beach Boys.
Something with oranges, orange box or orange crate. And
we'll find out. We'll drop it in.
Yeah. And so he recorded tracks on that album over the weekend, and on Monday he called back and said, "You know what? This thing plays great. This is the best recording bass I've ever heard. What would you like? Oh, do you want me to be an artist? I'll be an artist." So it's been over half his career now.
Yeah.
And now he plays other basses, and as he should. They're like knife, fork, and spoon. You can't eat peas with your knife.
Yeah.
You could, but it wouldn't be as efficient. And so for fives, he plays Dingwall, and for fours, he plays his Warwicks or his autograph bass.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 30
That's
years
amazing.
now.
Absolutely amazing. Has his signature model changed much over the years?
That's
or was it a signature model to begin with?
So that's a good question. He started on what would be now a Prima Artist, but back then it was a Prima. And so we sent the bass to him, and he receives it. And at this time, like working all-nighters because of just whatever it takes to be able to make sure that I can pay my bills. And we built him this bass and sent it down to him. And the first thing he says is, "Yeah, it's great. Oh, I forgot to mention, I like mandolin frets. Could you make me a different one?" Wow. And I'm like, "Oh no, I couldn't even afford that one."
Yeah.
And I thought, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, mandolin frets on a bass, like that's crazy. Basses are big, frets should be bigger. And so I thought, well, Lee knows what he's doing, so I'll do it. And so that was 95. And I remember playing it for the first time and just having my mind blown at how effortlessly these tiny little frets felt.
Yeah, more fretlessy in a way, closer to the actual wood.
Yeah, and so the neck felt thinner. The tone was woodier because now you're not listening to as much metal.
Yeah,
less fret rattle. It was just a revolution. And so I don't know what I did with the rest of my supply of large frets, but they never went on basses again. They went on guitars probably.
Yeah.
And we've been small fret guys ever since.
So are you using the same frets on everything like he suggested back then? Or?
We only use the mandolin frets on the Sklar.
Okay.
They're tricky to work with because they're tiny. And it'd be tricky from a marketing point of view because people would look at them and go, "Oh, those things will wear out in a week."
Okay.
So we use the next size up, which would be banjo size. That's what we call them. But if you look at a 60s Martin acoustic, same size.
Okay.
If you look at a 60s Fender Precision, same size.
Yeah.
So they're not unheard of. We're not inventing anything new. We're using something that's tried and true.
Yeah.
But they are smaller than normal.
Yeah. And has Lee kept all of his basses that you supplied to him over the years?
His first gold one got auctioned off for an elephant sanctuary.
Oh, lovely.
And so that raised a fair amount of money. And I think Trickfish was somehow involved in that. I think. Okay. I don't know the details of the story, but I think we owe a debt of gratitude to Trickfish, who, by the way, make amazing electronics.
They do.
And great guys, too.
Yeah, great guys.
And so, maybe another one's gone to charity. One was hanging in the Hard Rock Cafe for the longest time.
Amazing.
And I don't know where that one ended up. But yeah, he's pretty much kept them all.
And you showed me a photo of him using one recently.
Yeah, his second gold one, which replaced the auction bass. That one, I think we've actually upgraded the pickups, and by upgraded, we've swapped out the pickups for the newest, latest. And I think that one has a Neve in it. And so that's his main gigging bass. That one and the Resist one, I think that one's green.
Amazing. I've never seen him play yet in person. I've met him a few times with you at NAMM.
He's a sweet guy. Yeah. Right now, like at this moment, sorry, I keep banging my watch into this bass. At this moment, he's out with Lyle Lovett. And I had a chance to see Lyle's band play and with Lee and Russ Kunkel on drums. And it was like watching some of the best musicians in the world lay back And even though what they were playing wasn't note heavy, it wasn't chopsy, you could just tell that these guys had so much talent that even the simplest stuff they made sound better
The
than
feel.
you could imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely amazing.
And then each one of them would have a chance to take a solo, and then you could see the horses
talent.
run. Then, yeah,
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, he's a great guy. When I ran into him the first time at NAMM at your stand, he was like, "Yeah, I've just got off the phone to Phil Collins." I was like, "Oh, okay, that's nice."
yeah.
Yeah, such a cool guy. Yeah,
And he gets a lot of. We hear a lot of feedback from the what was the Toto DVD of falling
yeah, falling in between.
falling in between. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah. So he had to sub on that tour, and he had 14 days to learn their entire catalog,
wow.
and he did it. And he's done the Oscars, and so playing for 1 billion people, and reading charts, and having maybe one rehearsal before that. It's
Incredible, isn't it?
I don't know how he does it.
Yeah,
He's got a gift.
amazing guy. So back when you started building basses, what about the electronic side of it? What was that? What was going on there back then?
Bartolini, and so there were a lot of guys, young bass builders, the Lakin guys, Hugh McFarlane and Dan Lakin, and Rob Elric and Ken Lawrence. We all sort of started at about the same time, and we all used Bartolini electronics. And Bill and Pat Bartolini were like the champions of the small bass builders. And so if you used Bartolini electronics at that time, they would let you put a bass in their booth at NAMM.
Oh, amazing.
And so we would all hang out at the Bartolini booth. And Bill and Pat, like Bill would make us custom pickups, because you can't just take a stock pickup and turn it and expect it to work right. It's got to be longer.
Yeah.
And if it's longer, it's not going to sound right. And so you're going to have to rewind it. And so Bill was great. He made custom pickups for us for years. And we used their stock electronics, but stock, Bartolini being Bartolini, stock doesn't necessarily mean stock. They'll do tweaks for you. And they, I've heard the very first bass we built, and we've been doing continuous improvements. Almost every 6 months we have something new for 35 years. And I heard the very first bass we built, and I was like, it sounds pretty good. So even though we've been trying to improve for 35 years, we haven't gone quite as far as I thought we had. Which is, I guess, good and bad.
I guess that's testament to the build quality and the actual design of the actual instrument as well.
I guess. And I guess it's testament that Bartolini pickups and electronics are great to begin with. Yeah.
So many of our basses come with them. Yeah, Elric, MTD, and some Spectres now, and yeah.
And the only reason we changed was so in Saskatoon, my mentor was like the Leo Fender of Canada. He was the first electric guitar manufacturer in Canada, like a complete genius. And he was always saying to me, "Sheldon, you got to make your own pickups. Let me help you develop your own pickups." And I was like, "No, we're tight with the Bartolinis." But there was a period where we just couldn't get any pickups. They were so busy. Everybody, and if they got a big order in from some large manufacturer, that meant that we were waiting on pickups. And so there was a point where we were going to go out of business if we didn't have pickups, because we had all these basses built with no pickups. And
was that still in the 90s, would you say?
99.
Yeah.
And so we're like, okay, I need my company to stay in business. So I called up Glenn McDougall, my mentor, and I said, "Okay, Glenn, I'm ready to talk pickups." And so he wound the original pickups for us, and gave us some help on figuring out how to make shells. And so he'd wind us coils at night and would test them in the day, and then would give them feedback. He'd wind more, make some changes, and would wind more coils. And eventually we ended up with the FD1. And so F for Fury, which was his company, Dingwall, which is ours, and then version 1, which was, and we did something different that nobody's ever done before. And we were able to get a pickup design that sounded perfectly consistent from 4 to 5 to 6. And usually there's, it's hard to get them to sound the same because of the different coil lengths. And so that was our addition to the pickup world. And so eventually we got our own pickup winding machine, and we developed the FD 2.9, which we didn't make for very long, and then eventually the FD3, and that became sort of where we stayed for the longest time, probably 10 years.
And were you using the pickup blend knob then, or was it always the selector with you guys?
We started with blends, and but I was, from my experience in guitar repairs and guitar tinkering, I was a real fan of series and parallel, and so we hand wired rotary switches, and we offered them as an option, and nobody wanted them until one guy ordered it, and then it's like, okay, this sounds really cool. So we tried to push it onto our customers, and eventually another guy, and then eventually another guy, and then it was maybe 50-50. And I was still the guy that did final setup at that time. And I didn't understand the electronics behind how the blend combined with the volume would load down passive pickups. And I just thought blend, switch, series, I like switch better. But I still remember this time when I was setting up a bass, and I'm going, I can't figure it out. Some of the basses sound lively and some of them not so lively. I wonder what it is. And I look down, this one sounds live. I look down, it's a rotary switch. Okay. The blend is loading down the pickups. Yeah. It's loading down the high end, and it's loading down the output slightly. And from that point on, I was like, all right. Well, I like the tone of, and I like the concept of not loading down pickups via a switch. And so from that point on, I was like, we'll make you a blend, but we really recommend you go with rotary switch. And this is why. And eventually
it switched.
Eventually switched. And we get maybe one request for a blend a year. And we say no until this year when we came up with the Nashville. So we went old school on the Nashville edition, and combined a blend for 2 pickups and then a bypass switch to the middle pickup. And it's a really versatile system. It's not for everybody, but we designed it for the Nashville musicians that we met. And I thought it was original, but it turns out, I should have known this, but it turns out that there was a guy in Nashville, Brian Barrett, who's been doing this mod for years already for the Nashville musicians. And like I say, I should have known that, but I didn't. And so credit goes to him. He came up with it first. But it's been really interesting. People have quite liked that circuit.
Yeah. Loads of positive feedback at the weekend from the Birmingham Guitar Show.
Oh, right, yeah. We had a Nashville there. We'll still be strong on the rotary switch, because I think it's one of those things where I think the best feedback I've heard recently was this guy in Eastern Europe somewhere, and metal guy. He ordered his Dingwall, and he gets it just in time for the pandemic, and he's like, oh man, now I don't have any gigs. So he started doing production, and what he said was that he's glad he got the Dingwall because it allowed him to get more production gigs. And so instead of just being metal oriented live playing, Now he was doing studio gigs for hip hop and pop
wicked.
and all kinds of genres because of the versatility of the rotary switch.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so it's a great system for people who record because you can just instantly get a completely different tone, and the bass is all warmed up and in tune. You don't have to set it down, grab another one. It's cold, tune it,
Yeah.
and the vibe's gone.
So, in terms of the models you're building, when were they introduced? So you had the Prima first. What came after that?
The very first one was the Voodoo,
Okay.
and that's evolved into the Z series. A year later was the Prima, and that's evolved into the Prima Artist. And so the original Z series has been over 35 years of continuous production.
Yeah.
And we went with those two models for essentially 15 years. And then I had a customer ask, could you do like a Music Man style? And I go, well, no, I can't because we don't have a humbucker. And then I thought, but what we could do is we could move the neck pickup back and we could make you a humbucker. And right around the same time, 2 other people asked for the same thing. And I thought, well, if 3 people want it, that's pretty unusual.
Yeah.
Usually when you get customer requests, it's something nobody else wants. And so we came up with a second variation of the at that time we called it the Zebra. So now we had a Z1 and the Z2.
Amazing.
And then about a year later, we came up with a third pickup back in the original position, and that became the Z3.
And that was when it had the 2 slimmer pickups together and the one sort of on its own.
And then one.
Yeah, I remember those.
In 2000, it became like prices were going up and up and up. Our costs were going up. And I was like, yeah, we need a less expensive instrument. And so we just took a look at all the things that were hard to do on a regular bass. And so sanding and buffing inside in those areas around the heel are really difficult. So let's eliminate that. And let's make the shape as smooth as possible all around, make the curves as simple as possible. Even the electronics cavity on a afterburner has been designed to be as simple to route as possible. There are no bumps.
Oh, interesting.
It's like a racing course. And so we reduced the cost and went with a flat headstock, reduced the cost down to $1,200 for a 4-string in 2000.
And is that the reason on the afterburners why, if you're looking at it from the back, there's just the simple curve?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 100% because I was the guy who was buffing at that time, and I hated buffing. It was slow and painful, and so just took a look at the labor. Where were we spending what I thought was too much labor? And so anywhere where you could save 5, 10, 15 minutes, we did. And if you can save time without reducing quality, well, then you're giving people free quality.
Yeah, definitely. Because obviously the quality hasn't changed, has it? It's just a simpler design.
Yep. And then the only thing that we did where we kind of went backwards was on the afterburners. I didn't want to put a string tree, nor could I find a string tree that was a good fit. And so we came up with the concept of countersinking the tuners into the headstock, and then for about the first year would disassemble them and would take the shaft and would manually grind
really?
a half hourglass shape into them to pull the string down to the face of the headstock.
Wow, okay.
And then they were steel, so would gun glue them again to make them black. And that was a nutty process.
Yeah.
And eventually Hipshot said, well, you're ordering enough tuners, we'll do that for you.
So they would do the same process, but obviously before it's made.
Yeah. And they'd make them shorter, and they'd do a half hourglass shape.
Amazing.
And they've been doing that for us ever since. So 25 years now.
Yeah.
And so I call it the $50 solution to a 50-cent part.
Yeah, 100%. What about the Super P and the J? When did that happen?
Super J mid 2000s, I think.
Yeah.
And at that time, the jazz, like a hot rodded jazz, was like the hottest bass in existence, and we had nothing that was anything like it. And so tooled up and designed a jazz. And the thinking was that if it's going to be used in more traditional music, you don't want to go sustain heavy. And there's one thing about long scale Dingwalls, or probably long scale any bass, is that sustain is part of the package. There's no way around it. And so shortened the scale length to 32 inches to 34 and a quarter on the E string and 35 on the B. We only started with a 4-string though. And similar situation where we designed and built the prototype and then went and got strings for it using our strings for the long scale, and the tone sucked. And I was like, oh no, what am I going to do now? I've spent all this time and energy building something and it didn't work out. And so we went and tried a different brand of strings and they sucked, and tried a different brand of strings and they sucked. And I was about to give up, and I put a set of DRs on it, and I was like, that's the tone.
That's the tone you wanted.
Yeah. And so for the first while, we used DR strings, and then we eventually developed our own medium scale string for the Super. So that would have been mid 2000s, and then the 5 came out in I think 2009.
And was it both shapes, the P and the J? Or?
The J, it was J4, then 5, and I honestly don't remember when we came out with the P. That was quite a while later, because the P was sort of this. It wasn't anywhere near as popular as
at
the
that
J
time.
was at that time. Oddly enough, if you go to Japan, it's still that way. J's are
really?
in a store like this. It would be all of these would be J's, and maybe those 6 over there would be P's.
Wow.
And so I misjudged the Japanese market. But for sure in North America, the P is I think it's leapfrogged the J. At least that's my perception.
Definitely. It's a really popular bass at the moment, especially with the flat wound and that vintage vibe.
Yeah.
Seems to be the thing.
Yeah, it just sits in the mix so well.
Yeah. I really like the 2-way tone control you did on those.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. That's another one of those memories where I remember the exact moment. I'm sitting in my office. My office had an open stairwell below it, and the setup bench was below that. And we had the NAM sample ready to go. It was completely finished, and Ryan, our tester, was playing it. And I'm going, it's missing a slap tone. And I was like, guys, I don't want to take this to NAM without a decent slap tone, because it only had the neck pickups. And from my guitar experience, we used to make a circuit that was an inductor, and it's called an LCR circuit. It was an inductor, a capacitor, and a resistor, and it was a mid-scoop, passive mid-scoop. And I thought, maybe we could try that. And so we cobbled one together that evening and just put it into the bass, and that gave us a slap tone. Just instant, just
Mid-scoop.
like instant mid-scoop. Fortunately, it was in the right frequency, and that was great. And I kind of don't remember what happened after that, but it was essentially we took a tone control and a blend, and we used one half for a tone control and the other half for a passive mid.
Yeah, such a great idea. I used to love that on those basses. Is it still an option now?
It's still an option.
Is it?
Yep.
Okay, brilliant.
Yep. And at that time, we were using inductors that we bought from Yamaha, and they were used in Yamaha's studio consoles.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then that supply dried up.
Yeah.
And so we had to start winding our own.
And what was the switch you used to do on the AB series? There was like a little switch. I can't remember the name of it now.
Oh.
A long time ago.
Yeah. Okay. So then we took that same inductor and we put it into, we had we had nothing to epoxy pot the circuit in,
Okay.
and so we used an ice cube tray, and
Interesting.
and we mixed up blue dye in the epoxy, and
Yeah.
so they look like blue ice cubes, and so we called it the blue cube,
Yeah.
and capitalized the E in blue and the cube, Q in cube, so it was
Yeah.
blue
Yeah. Yeah.
EQ cube.
And what did that used to do? Because I can't remember now.
Well, with the FD1s, they were pretty peaky, and they had a pretty aggressive upper mid range, and so we used the blue cube to tame that and just make them sound a little sweeter,
So more of a slap tone thing,
more of a slap tone.
slap switch in a way.
Yeah.
No, wicked.
I forgot about those. Yeah.
Yeah, they were great. We had them on a few pre-owned basses we had here.
Ah, okay. There's still guys that prefer the FD1 pickups, and so if they ever come up in the used market, they go pretty quick.
Is there any chance you can make them again?
No, because Glenn wound those ones,
Oh, okay.
and Glenn since passed away.
Oh.
And whatever he did with his winding machine, they just don't sound the same when we try and do the exact same specs.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Little magic touch.
something about it. Glenn actually made his own pickup winder.
Really?
Designed it himself, had a machinist make it for him, and he was a tool and die genius. He had machines that, if he would have been hired by, let's say, Ford, he could have retooled the factory and he could have gotten Ford like 20% more efficient, probably. Just
Absolutely
one of those
incredible.
guys.
Yeah, yeah. You get those guys, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Geniuses. So when did the combustion series start?
So probably 20 years ago. Again, the writing was on the wall that the afterburner was our version of a combustion, and I saw what it did for sales, and so as the afterburner eventually became more expensive with more options, and it became again maybe a little too expensive for the average working musician. I was like, okay, well, there's nothing more that we can do, so we have to look for manufacturing support somewhere else. I don't care where else,
Yeah.
but we need somebody bigger to help us.
Yeah.
And so we went to 15 different factories, and they all said no. So we tried Godin in Canada. We've tried Larrivee. We tried a couple of companies down in the States. We tried companies in Japan, in Korea, and in China. And it was the Chinese factory that we still use. They were the only ones, because at that time, nobody was doing multi-scale. Nobody was doing production multi-scale. We were the only ones. And so these factories were like, I still remember Jack Westheimer from Court saying, Sheldon, here, let me tell you what the problem is that we're going to have to come up with a whole new system. We're going to have a special machine just to do your frets. And then it's going to have to sit in the corner until you place another order. And that space is going to cost us money. And we're going to be tripping over it. And it's just not a good idea, Sheldon. We can't help you. But wish you well.
Wow, okay.
I really appreciated, Jack's passed away now, but I really appreciate him sharing,
That insight, I guess.
that insight.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never thought that it would be so difficult for a high volume manufacturer. At any rate, so this Chinese factory, they were gung ho. They were willing to give it a try.
Awesome.
And all the reps that would interface with us North Americans, they're all bass players, and they knew more about our basses than some of our dealers did. And so I was like, okay, this is somebody I trust to.
Yeah.
If we say we want it a certain way, they'll listen. They'll make it that way.
Yeah.
And so that was 2009, and we took samples to the NAMM show, and we sold like crazy. And then the industry died, like overnight. It died, and at the same time, we got kicked out of our space because somebody with a bigger budget wanted our
Canada.
In Canada.
Oh wow.
And so overnight, our market disappeared and our rent quadrupled. And we were teetering on the verge of of bankruptcy. And it was the combustion that allowed me to have a business plan that a bank would look at. And again, it was another one of those, it was the people skills
Yeah.
in dealing with the bank that got me through, because they spent a lot of time. We went for a lot of dinners and did a lot of shop tours and had to answer a lot of really tough questions for them to feel confident that, okay, this guy's not going to take money and run. This guy's going to, and he's not going to run his company into the ground.
Yeah.
And he's not going to buy a Porsche if we loan him a big pile of money. And so I was able to borrow enough money to do the first production run of combustions, and that got us going.
Amazing.
And the sale of those started to taper off, and I was going, man, I don't know if this is worth continuing with, and came to the London Bass Guitar Show, and I met Nolly. And so as the combustion was starting to run out of its initial momentum, met Nolly, and then
The NG series picks up.
it picked back up. Yeah.
Incredible. So how did the dark glass thing, how did that become a thing? Was it because he was using dark glass already?
Yes. And so at that show where I met Nolly, I also met Doug Castro, who was the head of Dark Glass. And Doug, both Nolly and Doug, they're roughly the same age, and they both look like teenagers. Like they look like little kids.
Yeah.
And so once Nolly started playing a few of our basses, he really decided that this was the bass for him. And fortunately, it's still the bass for him.
Yeah.
So about 2013, Nolly ran something past me. He said, I'd like to work on a signature model, but I'd like it to be a combination of a few different manufacturers, and Dark Glass was one of them. And there was another pickup manufacturer that wasn't as good a fit, and not because they don't do great work. It was just in the time frame, it just didn't work out. And so Nolly and the Dark Glass team and I would get together every morning before NAMM and would sit and have breakfast and would talk about bass ideas, and then we'd go out for dinner at night and would talk about concepts, and everything was kind of hashed out at meals as to how this bass would evolve.
Yeah.
And Mark from Bass Direct was at one of these dinners, and he was talking to somebody else, and he was mentioning how I don't know what he was talking about, but I just heard him say, it's a bass. What does it need a treble for? And I was like, well, that kind of solves the problem that I was trying to solve, which was I don't want just another 3-band EQ. I don't want to go to all this trouble and just have another 3-band EQ. It's got to be different.
Yeah, of course.
And so with that, I thought, okay, well, that frees up one knob. I also didn't want like a sea of knobs on the bass. So that frees up one knob we could use for high mid. And Nolly was sitting beside me, and I said, Nolly, what do you think of this? Bass, low mid, high mid, no treble. And he goes, yeah, that'll work.
Yeah.
And so he thought of a couple of frequencies. He asked Doug what he thought, and Doug was just like, yeah, I got the circuit in my head. I can do it. And it was that fast.
So it came together quite quick.
Just like that.
Amazing.
And then that preamp has gone on to be quite popular for Dark Glass, and it's showed up in all kinds of basses, and it's been a really great preamp for heavy music. But not only that, it's been a great preamp for all kinds of
I think so too.
styles. Yeah.
Got customers who use the NG3 for a lot of different styles.
Yeah.
Not just what you'd expect.
Yeah, lots of funk guys use it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely a punchy sound with that high mid control.
For sure. And then Doug voiced the bass control quite high. And so it's bass and low mid at the same time. And it's just this warm, chocolatey tone. Yeah.
I guess fast forward to now, really, with the JT3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the latest combustion, if you like.
Yeah. So JT was touring Canada. In touring, Canada is a large country with a small population, and it's kind of weighted at both coasts. And so a large band tour of Canada would be Toronto, Montreal, fly over the rest of Canada and do Vancouver. And so Duran was playing in Toronto, and we got a call. And it was from JT's bass tech. And I was a fan of, I used to play Duran Duran songs when I gigged, and I was the guitar player, but I always thought JT was the coolest.
Hence the Kabuki.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, I thought I was being punked, and they asked if JT could try one. And there was nothing anywhere near him, so I said, listen, we'll send you one. And so we had an hour to get a bass completely set up into a box, get all the address and paperwork done, and get it to FedEx on time. And I was lucky I didn't get into an accident, because I was doing illegal speeds all the way to the FedEx office. And I got there 1 minute after 5. And I'm banging on the glass door, and the FedEx rep is, oh, hey, Sheldon. And so he let me in. And I said, oh, man, this has got to get to Toronto by tomorrow. It's for Duran Duran. And he goes, well, I tell you, the truck's already gone to the airport. But I tell you what, I'll drive it over myself, and I'll make sure it gets on.
Awesome.
So the FedEx rep drove the bass to the airport, got it on the plane, got it to JT in time, and that started a relationship where at first it was just like, yeah, I really like it. I'm gonna take it and play it, and we'll see. And then eventually, he recorded an album with it, and at that point, it became okay. I'm really starting to see the benefits.
Yeah.
The front of house guys were like, no way. We don't want, use your old basses. We don't want...
Don't want change, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't want to change. And eventually, the front of house guys, they finally heard one live, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
And so, little by little, he started using it. Now he's using it for 2 or 3 albums he's recorded, and also all the live shows.
Incredible.
And he eventually came to us as just like Nolly did.
Yeah.
Like to work on a signature model. And at that time, I'd been wanting to work with Rupert Neve all my entire career.
Yeah.
And just did not think that we had enough brand value for them to pay attention. And I thought, okay, well, we could do the same thing we did with Dark Glass, where we have a known bass royalty, I guess you'd call them. Maybe Rupert Neve Design would listen to us and take us seriously. And so that's exactly what we did. We went to them and said, we have this project with John Taylor, would like to work with you as well. And turns out the entire engineering team at Rupert Neve Design are bass players. And we sent them a bass, and we talked a little bit about specs, about what we were looking for and what John was looking for. And so okay, well, let's build a prototype. And so they started with a large circuit that they could swap out components. And they ordered in dozens of ICs and dozens of caps and resistors from different suppliers. And then they sat there, the entire engineering team, they'd play the bass, and they'd pull out the IC and put a different one from another manufacturer, play that and listen to it. And it was all ear testing.
Yeah.
And so I like to say that not only was the preamp designed specifically for the Dingwall bass, but every component was selected for.
That's amazing.
And they sent us the prototype in a separate box, and we plugged it in, and I played 3 notes, and I was like, I'm sold. This is there's magic here.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that with instruments, there's ones you pick up and they sound dead and they don't feel like they have life. And then there's ones that I call it the magic.
Yeah, definitely.
They sound alive, and that preamp sounded alive in 3 notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. So was it your idea to do the 2-band and the tone? Or?
It was a collaboration. And so to make it function for John, we needed this. Well, this is 3 knobs. So imagine if this was 3 and then there were 2 more here. We needed these.
Oh, grab one.
Okay.
I'll grab one. Here we go. Here's one you made earlier.
And so we needed this knob not to have a center detent.
Okay.
And we needed this knob not to have a center detent because John, as he's playing and singing, unconsciously grabs these knobs and will dime them. And if that was a bass knob, that would put a lot of pressure on the sound guys to catch that. And so the original prototype was a 3-band. And I thought, well, wait a minute. If the only thing we could do is if we made that a master tone, then he could dime it and that would be good.
Yeah.
And so the first edition is master tone bass treble. And I'd never really wanted to have an active and a passive treble on the same bass because to me that was confusing. And then just playing around with the circuit, they didn't really sound good when used together. And so we started playing around with different caps on the master tone.
Okay.
And then we found one cap value that worked beautifully with the active treble. And then all of a sudden a light bulb came on. It's like, oh, you can get subtle different tones
100%.
combining active and passive if you get the cap right.
Yeah.
And so now I'm sold.
Yeah. It's a great bass.
It's been doing really, really well for us. John and his designer, Patty, it was their idea for the concept of the stripes to match the Rio album.
Yeah.
Bernie, the tech, it was his idea to put the inlay from the Rio album. I never even saw it on the Rio album until they pointed it out.
I've never noticed it either.
Yeah.
I'll have to look for it.
Apparently this is a symbol that the original artist found a picture of, and that was found in a catacomb below Jerusalem. And so it's ancient and
amazing.
And the artist just thought, that's kind of cool, and put it on Duran's album.
That's amazing. So you're using the Neve preamp in other basses now as well, right?
Yes, it's an option available to order for any of our custom shops, except for the Super P.
Yeah.
And it's become quite a popular option. And then for the Nashville, because the idea to work with Rupert Neve came from a Nashville session musician, friend of Leland's. To me, it's just a natural fit for the Nashville bass, and so the Nashville edition has a blend. This toggle is now on the Nashville. It's a switch for the center pickup, and the active passive is a push pull.
Nice.
And it's a really powerful system.
Definitely.
The JT has been super well received. Bass Gear magazine just did a review of it. And it turned into like a 30-minute video.
Really?
Where Jonathan Herrera went through every single detail. And he really got it. Jonathan's a bright guy. He's reviewed hundreds and hundreds of basses. And when you have a variety like that, you learn quite a bit about what works and what doesn't.
Definitely.
So I'm glad it went well, because it would have been very painful if Jonathan would have hated it.
Definitely, man. So what's next for Dingwall then? What's the rest of the year or the future looking like?
We're the SP1, which is the production version of the Super P. I believe the container has finally arrived at our shop, and we're shipping those this month. First 5 months are sold out, and so our focus is to get those out as quickly as possible, within the capability of our team to do a good job on the setup.
Yeah.
Because people have been waiting for a long time for those. JTs, get as many of those out as possible. Again, people have been waiting a long time. Cooling our jets a little bit on the R&D. We have one model that I hope to release at NAMM, and that's exciting. I've been working on that for 10 years, and it'd be nice to finally get it out there. But like with anything, if it's not right, we don't want anybody to see it.
Of course. So would that be summer NAMM or the next winter NAMM?
Winter NAMM, yeah.
Awesome.
And then so that will be our year. But we got our work cut out for us.
Oh, definitely.
JT's pretty much everything on the braided play side is sold out for a year, and so we have a duty to our customers just to get stuff out.
And of course, the Canadian custom stuff as well.
Canadian custom shop is sold out 3 years, and the guys, they do great work. We've invested a lot in machinery and processes, and so we're starting to see higher numbers of custom shop leaving. We're doing more than one custom per day, and our goal is by the end of this year, the goal is easily 2 a day, and within 2 years, 4 a day. And some of that will be hiring more employees. Some of it will just be how we schedule things and how we manage information.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, thanks for coming to see us.
Marcus, thank you.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I'll catch you at Mannheim.
Thank you. And
Probably next time.
Bass Direct has always been one of those stores that they felt like a real partnership.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes we'll come to you guys and we'll ask advice, and
Anytime.
Yeah, and so we appreciate the influence you've had on us and on the evolution of our basses.
Cheers, guys.
Take
See you
care.
soon.
Cheers.